So, now, chapter 4 of the book Mastery for day 5. So, this took me a bit to make because the chapter was really long and it's going to be out today, and it is a bit late than my usual upload schedule. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, chapter 4 says, See people as they are, social intelligence. So basically the point of this chapter is to help you build the social intelligence. Social intelligence, what it means is having the ability to know what to do in social situations and having the ability to understand how the dynamic social situations are. So social intelligence consists of two things. One, specific specific knowledge of human nature, and the other one is general knowledge of human nature. So now let's touch on the specific knowledge of human nature. The specific knowledge of human nature is what we know based on cues that we might find from another person. So these few cues can be social cues. These cues are non-verbal cues. So they can be like something like the tone of voice, or how the way the person is standing, how the way person is looking at you. All of those are non-verbal cues. All of those apply to that specific knowledge of human nature. But it's a completely different thing when we're talking about the general knowledge of human nature. But before we get into that, I will bring up one last point that I just got up that I forgot to mention. So the best way to really know these specific cues is that you have to be observant. In order to be observant, you have to drop your guard and focus more on observing the person and observing what they're talking about rather than focusing on thinking what you're gonna say. It takes a man to not think about himself to actually be more observant. Alright, so now let's touch on the next one, which is the general knowledge. So Robert Greene says that there are 7 deadly qualities. 7 qualities that make these general cues. So these 7. So Robert Greene says there's 7 different deadly realities that hurt each person. There are qualities in people that are not great. So the 7 qualities are, and I'm gonna read them off: envy, conformism, irregularity, self-obsessiveness, laziness, flightness, and passive aggressiveness. So now let's explain what each one is. So let's talk about the first one, which is envy. So envy is basically when you compare yourself to someone who has something that you don't have. It's when you look at yourself and you get jealous of that person, whether the person has more money than you, whether the person is more good looking than you. And you may come across people like that who are envious to you. So how do you deal with people who are envious? So to deal with people with envious, you have to show weakness, a bit of your imperfections, because if you appear too perfect, they'll really envious of you and help it come onto your downfall. So you have to show like a signs of weakness, that a signs for them, not in the area that they're envious at, but of other areas in your life and other qualities of your life. So you have to do that. So now conformism. So this is when you basically join a group of people, and it's probably like an organization or a community, but you switch your ideals into their ideas and their beliefs. So basically, how do you avoid that? Is you have to stay and so. I'm sorry, something's vibrating. So how do you deal with conformism? So how do you deal with conformism? So how do you deal with that is that you have to be open to accept, like you have to listen to them and still agree to your own beliefs even though you listen to them. And that's how you deal with conformism. And that's how you deal with people who are conformists, who get their ideas based on that and they believe that because of what they've been told. You have to take it in, but with practically like a grain of salt. But you have to stay true to your own ideals. The next one is rigidity. Now, real quick, my English is not the best there is. So if I spell something wrong, please let me know. If I say something wrong, please let me know. Okay, so now rigidity is when you're put in a complicated situation or a difficult situation. It's where people tend to go back into their old habits. Now, I've seen this a lot. I've seen this a lot with people who struggle with habits like smoking or doing drugs and all those habits. They get off them, but then when something bad happens, when reality strikes them, they fall back on these habits. Now, it is something that has to do with our psychology. It's that it is a lot easier for us to fall back on those easy things that we used to know because they bring a sense of control into our lives. These routines, these daily habits, they make us feel like we have control over our lives. Now, if you're someone who is dealing with rigidity, what you have to do is you have to be open-minded and really accept life as it is and stay consistent with what you are and do the hard things. So now the next one is self-obsessiveness. So basically, we're always thinking about ourselves first, is what it means. But when it comes to like time when you want to have conversations with people, when you want to talk to people, you have to make sure that the conversation centers around them. You have to stop being self-obsessive. You have to be more open, because this self-obsessiveness will not make them like you. So in order to get more people to like you is that you have to center the conversation around them. So now the next one is the next one is laziness. We all have the tendency of wanting to do something quickly, to get something done quickly and all of that. We want to avoid the hard work as much as we can. Now, you may come across in your life a lot of lazy people. Now, a lot of people are like leeches. They'll try to feed off of you. They'll try to get your ideas off of you. Now, when you come into contact with these people, you have to make sure you keep your distance and keep your idea to yourself. Because if you share their idea, they're going to take the easy solution and claim the idea as yours and take all the credit for it. So the best way to really do with it is just keep your distance and keep your ideas to yourself. So the next one is flightness. So flightness is basically when people are controlled by their emotion. When people are controlled by like what they're feeling. So for example, you can ask your friend about how your idea sounds. They may say it's great that day. They may say it's amazing, something that they never heard of. But the next day they may come and they tell you it's a shitty idea. It sucks. No one's gonna like it. They're gonna switch up on you because of their mood swings. So when it comes to dealing with those type of people, the best way is to keep your distance from them. Best way is to keep a distance so they don't really harm you with their pettiness, with their ability to not control their own emotions. So now passive aggressiveness. You've probably seen this many times when people are really passive aggressive with you, but the main reason they are passive aggressive with you is because of the fear of confrontation. They're afraid of getting confronted about something, so that what they do is they rely on being passive aggressive in order to get what they want, because that's the best way for them to get what they want without having to worry about getting confronted about the things they're doing and getting confronted about how they're asking for it. So the best way to deal with it is you have to keep those people in a distance. The book actually says it here, I'm writing down. The best defense for those people who are passive aggressive is avoid them like they are the plague. So now Robert Greene in the book touches on strategies for social intelligence, like how to master social intelligence. So why do we need these strategies of social intelligence? Well, you see, these strategies will help us stay rational when it comes to our work, rather than getting emotional about the things that's going to happen. So strategy number 1, which is speak through your words. So basically what you have to understand is people are going to argue with you. People are not going to agree with what you do. People are going to disagree with what you do. So, and because of that, you have to speak through your word rather than they're going to give you all the criticism. Rather than being petty and accepting all the criticism and arguing back with them, you just focus on your work, you stay concentrated on it, and speak with the results of your work, you speak with the amount of work you put in your work. So your work does the speaking for you, rather than focusing on being petty and losing your focus. So next strategy is craft the appropriate persona. Now, people tend to have a habit of judging a book by its cover. Now, it is a lot, and you see it a lot. The majority of them will judge you by the cover, by what you show. So in order to be someone who gets judged in the right way, because they're gonna start making assumptions once they see that who you are right now by being yourself. So what you have to do is you have to craft a persona that people can easily judge in a good way based on what you're revealing about yourself. It can be a mysterious persona, but it can be a good positive persona. But that persona is practically the image people perceive you as, and they start making assuming who you're like based on what you reveal as your persona. So now let's touch on the next one. Now this one is see yourself as others see you. So basically, it's hard to detect our own flaws. It's hard to detect what is wrong with us. Well, we may not know about us. Do we talk too much? Do we breathe loudly too much? Do we act too much? And all of that. So you have to get into the mindset of putting yourself in other people's shoe, in order to, when you put yourself in their shoes, you can really understand what they see of you and how they see you as, based on what you've been giving out. And you can start detecting the flaws you might have, and you can start working and improve on those flaws in order to make them into strength. So the next one is suffer fools gladly. Now this one can be confusing, so I am going to read it from my notebook. Now, fools are classified as people who focus on short-term results. They focus on something like grabbing quick money, looks maxing, focusing the looks right now. So these people are the ones that are looking for those instant results, are the ones that are fools. Because those people are the ones that are controlled by their egos and controlled by their insecurities. Now, for these fools, all of them will try to drag you down to their level. And that's something I wrote down that I found really important in this chapter. But you have to understand, at the end of the day, we can all be fools to some extent. We may have our flaws or weaknesses that make us fools. So to deal with these fools is, you have to develop, like the book says, you have to develop the philosophy that they are in a part of life like rocks. You have to understand that you sometimes yourself can be a fool too. So don't be hypocrite about it. And now let's end off this today with a quote. The last quote that he says in this chapter. And I'll read it off of you here. It is a great folly to hope that other men will harmonize with us. I have never hoped this. I've always regarded each man as an independent individual, whom I devoured to understand with all his peculiarities, but from whom I desire no further sympathy. In this way have I been enabled to converse with every man, and thus alone is produced the knowledge of various characters and the dexterity necessary for the conduct of life. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. So my English is terrible, as you know, but I'll do my best. So if you want to check out day 1, it'll be right here on the top right, and here will be the subscribe. So if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe.